The worn tires of Griffin Xander's rusted pickup truck groaned in protest as he pulled into the parking lot of Sunshine Elementary. The midday sun glinting off the windshield, just as his phone buzzed with another overdue bill notification. He silenced it with a sigh, glancing at the small toolbox in the passenger seat. Before checking his watch, he had exactly 45 minutes to fix the school's janitor closet door hinges before picking up his daughter, Zoe, from her last period class. Griffin ran a calloused hand through his dark hair, mentally calculating how much this small repair job would add to his meager income this month. At 34, he hadn't imagined life as a single father working 3 jobs to keep a roof over their heads. His main gig as a maintenance worker at the apartment complex where they lived covered the rent, barely, while odd repair jobs and weekend shifts at the hardware store helped with everything else. After his wife died 3 years ago from cancer, leaving him with their then 6-year-old daughter, Griffin had learned to stretch every dollar until it screamed. The school secretary waved him through with a smile, and Griffin made quick work of the hinges, finishing with 15 minutes to spare. He wiped his hands on the worn jeans that had seen better days and headed toward the special education wing, where Zoe attended class. His daughter had been born with spina bifida, and while her wheelchair gave her mobility, it was constantly needing adjustments and repairs that insurance wouldn't cover. "Dad." Zoe's face lit up when she spotted him in the doorway. At 9 years old, she had her mother's expressive hazel eyes and his determined chin. Her wheelchair, secondhand and constantly jury-rigged with Griffin's repairs, rolled forward with the familiar squeak he'd been meaning to fix. "Hey, Supergirl," Griffin said, kneeling to hug her. "How was school today?" "Amazing. We have a new student named Mia, and she has a super cool wheelchair with LED lights and shock absorbers. She showed me how it tilts back and everything." Zoe's enthusiasm made Griffin's heart twist. He'd give anything to provide her with a chair like that. As they made their way down the hallway, Griffin noticed a sleek black Tesla parked next to his battered pickup. A woman stood beside it, her attention focused on a young girl about Zoe's age who appeared to be crying, sitting in a high-tech wheelchair that Griffin immediately recognized as the kind that cost more than he made in a year. "That's Mia," Zoe whispered excitedly. "And her mom." Griffin nodded, intending to walk past, but then he heard the woman's frustrated voice. "The service center says they can't send anyone until Monday, sweetie. I'm so sorry." The girl's sobs grew louder. "But Mom, I can't move it at all. How am I supposed to get around all weekend?" Griffin hesitated, then cleared his throat. "Excuse me, madam. I couldn't help overhearing. I'm pretty good with mechanical things. Maybe I could take a look." The woman turned, and Griffin felt an unexpected jolt. She was stunning elegant in a simple cream blouse and tailored pants, with warm brown eyes and dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked at him with a mixture of surprise and wariness. "That's very kind, but it's a complex system. The control joystick isn't responding." Griffin shrugged. "I fix my daughter's chair all the time. Different model, but the basics are similar." He gestured to Zoe, who waved at Mia. The woman seemed to relax slightly. "I'm Lydia Reynolds," she said, extending her hand, "and this is my daughter, Mia." "Griffin Xander," he replied, his rough palm briefly meeting her smooth one. "And this is Zoe." Lydia hesitated, then nodded. "If you really don't mind taking a look." Griffin set down his toolbox and examined the wheelchair's control panel. "May I?" he asked Mia, who nodded through her tears. He quickly identified a loose connection in the joystick assembly, and with a few precise adjustments from his tools, had the chair responding again within minutes. "You fixed it," Mia exclaimed, testing the controls with growing excitement. Lydia's face transformed with relief. "That's incredible." "The tech support had me on the phone for an hour with no solution." She reached for her purse. "Please let me pay you for your time." Griffin waved her off. "No charge, just being neighborly." "Dad fixes everything," Zoe announced proudly. "He's the best." Lydia studied him with new interest. Well, at least let me thank you properly. Could I buy you both dinner? There's a great pizza place just down the street. Griffin glanced at Zoe, who was practically vibrating with excitement at the prospect of spending time with her new friend. His pride wanted to decline. He didn't need charity, but the genuine warmth in Lydia's eyes and the opportunity to give Zoe a treat won out. Pizza would be great, actually. Thank you. At the restaurant, Griffin learned that Lydia was a self-made tech entrepreneur who had recently moved to town to be closer to a specialized medical center for Mia, who had cerebral palsy. Her company developed accessibility software, inspired by her daughter's needs. So you're a one-man maintenance operation? Lydia asked as the girls chatted animatedly over their pizza. Griffin nodded. Apartment complex maintenance by day, handyman by evening, hardware store associate on weekends. Whatever keeps the lights on. 3 jobs and a single dad. That's impressive. Not really, just necessary. Griffin took a sip of his soda. We manage. Modesty and skill, rare combination. Lydia smiled, and Griffin felt that unexpected jolt again. I've been looking for someone to help with some repairs at my new house, actually. The previous owners let a lot of things go. Would you be interested? Griffin considered her offer. Extra work meant extra money, and Zoe's wheelchair needed new wheels soon. I could take a look this weekend, if that works for you. That Saturday, Griffin arrived at Lydia's address and nearly drove past it twice, certain he had the wrong place. The house was actually a sprawling contemporary mansion on 3 acres of manicured grounds. He parked his truck, feeling distinctly out of place as he approached the front door with his toolbox. Lydia greeted him wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, her hair loose around her shoulders. Somehow, she looked even more beautiful in casual clothes. You found us. Come in, I've made a list of the issues. Over the next few hours, Griffin fixed a leaking faucet, adjusted several door hinges, and diagnosed an electrical problem in the kitchen. Lydia followed him from room to room, asking intelligent questions and occasionally bringing him coffee. The small repairs expanded into a substantial list, and Griffin found himself agreeing to return the following weekend. Mia's been talking nonstop about Zoe, Lydia said as she walked him to his truck. Would she like to come along next time? Mia would love the company, and I have an accessible pool they could enjoy. Griffin hesitated. He didn't want Zoe to get used to luxuries they couldn't afford, but the friendship seemed important to both girls. She'd love that. The following weekend, Zoe was practically vibrating with excitement as they drove to Lydia's house. While Griffin worked on installing new cabinet hardware in the kitchen, the girls played board games in the sunroom, their laughter drifting through the house like music. They're getting along wonderfully, Lydia said, handing Griffin a glass of lemonade. She leaned against the counter, watching him work with obvious admiration. You know, you're saving me a fortune. The contractor I called wanted 3 times what you're charging. Griffin tightened the final screw. I'm not looking to get rich, just make ends meet. A man of principle, Lydia said softly. That's refreshing. Their eyes met, and Griffin felt something shift between them, a subtle current of attraction that had been building since that first meeting in the school parking lot. He cleared his throat and looked away, reminding himself of the vast difference in their circumstances. Later, as promised, the girls went swimming. Lydia had a specialized lift for the pool that made it easy for both children to enjoy the water. Griffin sat at the edge, feet dangling in, watching Zoe's face glow with happiness. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen her so carefree. She's a remarkable girl, Lydia said, sitting beside him. You've done an amazing job raising her. She makes it easy. She's tougher than I am most days. Lydia's shoulder brushed against his. I doubt that. It takes incredible strength to do what you do, Griffin. The way she said his name made his heart skip a beat. You're not exactly slacking yourself. Single mom, running your own company. Yes, but I have resources. I can hire help. You're doing it all on your own. Griffin watched the girls splash and laugh. Different challenges, that's all. Over the next few weeks, Griffin found himself at Lydia's house regularly, first for repairs, then for dinners, and eventually just because she invited them. The girls became inseparable, and Griffin found himself looking forward to seeing Lydia more than he cared to admit. One evening, after the girls had fallen asleep watching a movie, Griffin and Lydia sat on her patio, sharing a bottle of wine. "Can I ask you something personal?" Lydia said, her face illuminated by the soft landscape lighting. "Sure. Are you dating anyone?" Griffin nearly choked on his wine. "No," he managed. "Between work and Zoe, there hasn't been time." He paused. "Why do you ask?" Lydia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Because I find myself thinking about you, a lot, and I was wondering if you ever think about me." Griffin set his glass down carefully. "Lydia, you live in a different world. You're successful, wealthy. I'm struggling to keep my truck running." "That's not what I asked." He met her eyes. "Yes, I think about you, more than I should." She moved closer. "Why more than you should?" "Because someone like you doesn't end up with someone like me. That's not how life works." Lydia frowned. "That's a convenient excuse. Are you afraid of trying or afraid it might actually work?" Before Griffin could answer, they heard Zoe calling for him. The moment passed, but her question lingered in his mind long after he'd carried his sleeping daughter to the car and driven home. The next week brought a crisis. Zoe's wheelchair finally gave out completely, the frame cracking in a way Griffin couldn't repair. The replacement would cost thousands they didn't have, and insurance would only cover a basic model after a lengthy approval process. Griffin was filling out paperwork for an emergency loan when Lydia called. "Zoe wasn't at school today. Is everything okay?" Griffin explained the situation, his voice tight with stress. "Bring her over," Lydia said immediately. "Mia has her previous chair in storage. It's only a year old and in perfect condition. Zoe can use it until you figure something out." Pride made Griffin want to refuse, but Zoe's needs came first. That evening, he watched as Zoe tried out Mia's old chair, a vast improvement over her broken-down model. "It's perfect," Zoe exclaimed, testing the smooth controls. "It's just a loan," Griffin said firmly, both to Zoe and to Lydia, who nodded in understanding. "Of course," she said, though her eyes told him she would happily have given it outright. That night, after Zoe was settled in bed with a book, Griffin sat at their small kitchen table, reviewing their finances for any possible way to afford a new wheelchair. There was nothing left to cut from their budget, no assets to sell. He was still staring at the numbers when his phone rang. "I have a proposition," Lydia said without preamble. "My company is expanding, and I need a facilities manager for our new building. Someone who understands maintenance systems, can supervise contractors, and isn't afraid to get hands-on when needed. The salary is competitive, with full benefits." "Are you interested?" Griffin sat back, stunned. "Lydia, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't want a charity job." "This isn't charity, Griffin. It's a legitimate position that I need to fill, and you're qualified. The fact that I like you is separate from the fact that you'd be good at this job." "I don't have a degree," he pointed out. "You have practical experience, which is more valuable. At least come see the facility, talk to my operations team, then decide." 2 days later, Griffin toured Lydia's company headquarters and met with her team. The job was real, the need genuine, and the salary would more than double his current income. After a formal interview with Lydia's HR director, Griffin was offered the position on the spot. That night, he called Lydia. "I'll take the job," he said, "but I need you to be honest with me. Is this just about helping Zoe and me, or is there something else between us?" Her voice softened. "Both. I want to help because I care about you both, but I also think you're the most authentic, capable man I've ever met. You see me as a person, not as a bank account. Do you know how rare that is?" "I've never been interested in anyone's money," Griffin said. "Just to be clear." Lydia laughed. "That's exactly why I'm interested in you. Now, will you finally agree to go on a proper date with me? Just us, no kids, no house repairs." A week later, Griffin picked Lydia up in his freshly washed truck. He'd used his first paycheck advance to buy a new shirt and have his good pants pressed. Lydia emerged from her house wearing a simple blue dress that made his heart race. "You look beautiful," he said, opening the truck door for her. "So do you," she replied, eyes appreciative. "Where are we going?" "Nothing fancy, but it's special to me." He drove them to a small Italian restaurant where he and his late wife had celebrated their anniversaries. It felt right to bring Lydia there, a way of honoring the past while embracing the possibility of a future. Over dinner, they talked about everything except work and kids, their childhoods, favorite books, dreams they'd set aside. Griffin found himself laughing more than he had in years, captivated by Lydia's quick wit and thoughtful insights. "You know," she said, twirling pasta on her fork, "I've dated men who took me to 5-star restaurants and bought expensive gifts, thinking that's what would impress me. None of them ever bothered to ask what I actually enjoyed." "And what do you enjoy?" Griffin asked. Her smile was warm. "This. Genuine conversation. Feeling like I'm with someone who sees me, not my bank account or my company." After dinner, they walked along the riverfront, hands eventually finding each other. Under the moonlight, Griffin turned to face her. "I need to be honest about something," he said. "I'm scared of this of us. Not because I don't feel something real for you, but because our lives are so different. I don't want Zoe or me to get hurt if you realize I don't fit into your world." Lydia stepped closer, her hand resting on his chest. "Griffin, I built my world. I can reshape it however I want, and I want you in it. The question is, can you let me into yours?" Instead of answering with words, Griffin lowered his head and kissed her, gently at first, then with growing certainty as her arms wrapped around his neck. When they finally parted, breathless, Lydia whispered, "I'll take that as a yes." Their relationship progressed naturally from there. Griffin excelled in his new position, quickly earning the respect of his team. The increased income meant he could finally provide Zoe with better medical care and a custom wheelchair that fit her needs perfectly. He and Zoe kept their apartment, with Griffin insisting on maintaining their independence, even as he and Lydia grew closer. The girls were thrilled about their parents' relationship, often plotting ways to ensure Griffin and Lydia had time alone together. 6 months after their first date, during a weekend getaway to a nearby lake, while the girls stayed with Lydia's parents, Griffin realized he was in love. They were sitting on the dock, watching the sunset paint the water in shades of orange and pink. Lydia's head rested on his shoulder, her hand in his. "I love you," he said simply. "I've been afraid to say it, but I'm more afraid of not telling you." Lydia lifted her head to look at him, eyes shining. "I love you too. I think I have since you fixed Mia's wheelchair in that parking lot." "That was just a loose wire," Griffin teased. "No," she said seriously. "It was more than that. It was seeing a man who stopped to help without expecting anything in return, who puts his daughter above everything, who sees the value in fixing things rather than replacing them." "Speaking of fixing things," Griffin said, suddenly nervous. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I've been thinking about us, about our future. I don't have a mansion to offer you, but I have my heart and my hands and my promise to always be there, to always try to fix whatever breaks." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Will you marry me, Lydia?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. They were married the following spring in Lydia's backyard, with Zoe and Mia serving as their flower girls. It was a small ceremony with only close friends and family present. Griffin had insisted on paying for the wedding himself, using savings from his new salary. Lydia, understanding his need to contribute equally to their life together, had happily agreed. As they exchanged vows, Griffin looked at the woman who had unexpectedly changed his life and at their daughters, beaming with happiness, and felt a sense of completion he hadn't thought possible after losing his first wife. "I promise to partner with you in all things," he said in his vows, "to build our life together with the same care I put into every repair patiently, thoughtfully, and with love in every detail." After the wedding, they decided to sell Lydia's mansion and buy a more modest home that felt like it belonged to both of them. The new house was fully accessible for the girls, with an open floor plan and a backyard perfect for family gatherings. Griffin installed a workshop in the garage, where he still enjoyed taking on small repair projects on the weekends, sometimes with Lydia working alongside him. They had been married for a year when Lydia approached him with news that would once again change their lives. "I've been feeling strange lately," she said one evening as they sat on their porch swing. "So I went to the doctor today." Griffin felt a surge of fear. "Are you okay?" Lydia smiled, taking his hand and placing it on her stomach. "We're going to have a baby." Joy swept through Griffin like a tidal wave. He pulled Lydia into his arms, holding her tight as happy tears filled his eyes. When they told the girls, their excitement was contagious. Both immediately began planning how they would help with their new sibling. Their son, Gabriel, was born on a crisp autumn day, perfectly healthy and with his father's determined chin. As Griffin held him for the first time, Lydia watching with tired but radiant eyes, he marveled at how a simple act of kindness in a school parking lot had led to this moment of perfect happiness. 2 years later, they welcomed another addition to their family, a daughter named Hannah, who completed their blended family of 6. Life was busy, sometimes chaotic, but filled with love. Griffin continued to rise through the ranks of Lydia's company, eventually becoming Chief Operations Officer, though he never lost his hands-on approach or his willingness to grab a toolbox when needed. Zoe and Mia grew into confident teenagers, both advocating for accessibility in their high school and starting a peer support group for students with disabilities. Their shared experience had created a bond as strong as any biological sisters. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Lydia surprised Griffin with a gift the deed to a small building downtown. "What's this?" he asked, confused. "Your next adventure, if you want it," she said. "I know you love working with me, but you've always talked about having your own repair shop someday. A place where you could train others, maybe employ people who have trouble finding traditional jobs." Griffin stared at the paper, overwhelmed. "This is too much." "It's an investment in your dream," Lydia insisted. "You've helped make mine come true. Now it's your turn." 6 months later, Xander Repairs opened its doors with a mission to provide quality repair services while training young people in practical skills. Griffin hired veterans, people with disabilities, and teens who needed mentoring. The business thrived, becoming a community fixture known for fair prices and excellent work. One evening, 10 years after they first met, Griffin and Lydia sat on their back patio, watching their 4 children play in the yard. Zoe, now in college studying engineering, was home for the weekend. Mia, pursuing a degree in digital accessibility design, was showing Gabriel how to navigate a simple coding program on a tablet. Hannah was drawing elaborate chalk designs on the patio, occasionally calling for everyone's approval. "Did you ever imagine this?" Lydia asked, leaning against Griffin's shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "Not in my wildest dreams. I was just trying to get through each day, keep Zoe safe and happy." "And fix a broken wheelchair," Lydia added with a smile. "The easiest repair I ever made," Griffin said, kissing the top of her head. Everything that mattered came after. As the sun set on their family, casting a golden glow over the yard, Griffin reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From struggling single father to successful business owner, from lonely widower to cherished husband and father of 4. Life hadn't been perfect. They'd faced challenges with the children, with their businesses, with balancing their different backgrounds, but they had faced everything together. With the same care and attention Griffin had always given to his repairs. Some things, he had learned, couldn't be fixed with tools. They required patience, love, and the willingness to build something new from whatever materials life provided. And in the end, that was what he and Lydia had done, built a beautiful life together, piece by piece, with love in every detail.